Welcome back to our Zuma webinar series where we break down what's actually working for modern property teams. I'm your host, Kendrick Bradley, the co-founder and chief product officer here at Zuma. And today's topic is practical applications of AI in multifamily. And this conversation couldn't be more timely or more close to near and dear to my heart. This is what I think about all the time here at Zuma. And if you look around, AI is now talked about everywhere. It's in leasing, it's marketing, collections, maintenance, we have co-pilots, assistants. And yet when you talk to operators, it's kind of the same thing over and over again, right? Teams are stretched, budgets are tight. There's a plethora of tools that all don't really talk to each other that well. So I want to uncover here, and I have some guests that have actually deployed AI across their portfolio. And it's not only Zuma's AI, it's other AI companies. And we're really trying to understand here, how is AI being leveraged in multifamily today? What's working, what's not, and what are the frontier applications that may or may not be fully leveraged? And where do we see this technology going in the future? What are the uncharted territories where this technology still could be better, and other areas where companies could still leverage these tools in ways that are currently not done? So I'm joined by some amazing guests today, and I'll let them all introduce themselves, and let's get started. All right, let's kick off the webinar. So thank you all for joining me. Today's topic is going to be a really fun topic around the practical applications of how AI can be deployed and how teams are using AI in multifamily. And today I'm joined by some amazing guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So Cody, maybe why don't you go up and start?
Cool. Thanks, Kendrick. Yeah, my name is Cody Lee. I'm the head of marketing for Weidner Apartment Homes based out of Seattle, Washington. And we have properties from Alaska all the way to the Carolinas and even in Canada.
Yeah. Good afternoon. Ian Bingham. I'm a senior vice president with REMM Group out of Chicago. We're an owner-operator primarily in the Midwest and now growing in the Southeast. Been in the industry for almost 30 years and worn several hats from operations to development to business development.
Hi there, my name is Windell Mollenido. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Technology at the REMM Group. We're located in Southern California, main office in Santa Ana. We manage properties all over California, roughly sitting around 12,000, 13,000 units right now and growing. I too wear many hats. I think many people in property management wear a lot of hats. But from marketing to technology to new developments, anything from operations to helping our folks get some leases and stay fully occupied.
Yeah, totally. Well, we have a wide variety of experience on this call. So the first question I'm going to ask, really just so our listeners have an understanding, is, where in your day-to-day in multifamily operations are you guys currently leveraging AI? I know that all of you have seen the transformation that's happened, but I'd love to understand really where are we today and where are each of you today in terms of actually leveraging AI?
I'm happy to start. So our company, we've been looking at artificial intelligence implementation on leasing as well as resident communication for a few years now. We've actually rolled out AI leasing and resident communication last year. Actually, prior to that, we had other programs, but just on the automation side, now really on the artificial intelligence side. And it's been very helpful. We've seen this technology help us not only alleviate a lot of tedious work for our leasing team and our resident relations and the communication side of it, but also helped us kind of reshape the funnel when it comes to lead to conversion. I think with the proper use of AI, that funnel's turning more into a cylinder over time. So we're hoping to kind of see that happen more and more, and that'll help the operations. I think it'll just increase the quality of work for many people. It's hard to get rejected, 100 times a day when you're calling someone. I used to work in a call center, so it'd be nice to get to the point where the robot gets the rejections and you get the wins.
I love that. That should be a slogan.
Yeah, I'll go next. We've very similar to Wendell in a lot of aspects. I think we're a little slower on the prospecting side of AI adoption. It's funny what we all call AI. I think it's evolving so quickly that you probably noticed my hesitation. I would not consider a chatbot, even if it's a real good one, to be AI. Some people would. And certainly we've had those deployed for years, and those have vastly improved. In terms of resident communication, delinquency pursuit, lease renewals, we too last year all moved that into the AI sphere and have had, I would say, pretty strong success there, really only putting it in the hands of our teams when it's an escalation. But a lot of the chasing down now has successfully gone through AI. And then on our pursuit in terms of what we want to tackle next, really looking deep dive at the facilities and maintenance side of the house. Again, there's a lot of good platforms out there that for the last several years have leveraged technology to geolocate and automate the work order flow to our team based on their discipline, right? So if you're great at plumbing, you're getting the plumbing tickets, or if you're great at carpentry, you're getting the carpentry ticket. And so now we're looking at some of the innovators out there who have taken AI and continued to move that forward. Talking to a group right now that is looking at not just the interaction, but then how to zero in on the parts needed and the supplies needed so that it can make our teams even more efficient. So that's kind of what's next for us.
Nice.
Yeah, I can chime in as well. So, I mean, like a lot of people, I think we're using it as, a chat function, as a follow-up function, really to supplement the customer journey and to ideally help, accelerate it, speed to lead, speed to lease, if ideal. But I would say there's a few use cases, maybe are less common, but, we're optimizing how we approach blog and website copy. So we already have copy, we have written, we have communications team internally, but we're actually utilizing AI to take that, refresh it, and do that at scale within certain guardrails, within certain best practices, and being able to do that at scale and then just approve it and then deploy it. I mean, you could have fresh copy every single year, and it's a very low workload and lift for your team while still keeping true to the original copy. That's one example. We also just did a large project where we took this on internally, but we actually virtually staged a bunch of our photos across our entire portfolio, ensuring that at least we had one room in available that was virtually staged, but we didn't rely on a vendor for that. We actually did that internally. And now we're in the process of doing that with floor plans, making sure we have 3D stage floor plans that actually reflect the units, the finishes, etc. One thing we're trying to do with all of this is actually enable our teams internally on the marketing side to have the skills and knowledge to work with these tools. There's always a place for the right vendor relationship as well. But I think enabling people to make decisions and to have creative input, obviously with the guardrails and with certain guidance and direction, it allows people to be far more strategic and less reliant on technology or things outside themselves. So I think it's finding a balance for us, but we're doing some interesting things with copy, with photos, with floor plans that we couldn't do before, at least at the scale we're doing it now. And there's still a human in the loop. We're not just deploying sight unseen, but it's just speeding up the initial process quite a bit. Saving a lot of money as a result, and the actual results are quite amazing.
Yeah, I kind of want to dive into sort of the impact. I know, Wendell, Ian, you guys said it was the AI that you guys have leveraged and deployed across operations was pretty successful, right? I'd love to understand, when you say successful, like what metrics were you specifically looking at? Was this from a, centralization perspective? Was this from, a speed to lease or operationally? I'm wondering, how are you guys gauging that success? And when you say it was successful, what does that mean?
So when we did our rollout of AI, I actually took our entire company through a little exercise. We did it back in beginning of 2025, did something called Robot Wars, just because I'm a nerd and I love doing stuff like that. And I went ahead and took 3 different AI service providers in our market, and I pit them against each other, splitting our portfolio into 3 different sizes, all mixed up, and then letting them go at it, and then getting surveys from the teams and seeing what kind of features they have, what kind of customer service they provide, what kind of training they provide, onboarding. Kind of went through a whole plethora of testing with each of these vendors to kind of see which one stacks up and which one our entire portfolio would like to roll out across the board. And some of the success metrics we used is, everything from the granular metrics to engagement scores and knock, because we use that as our CRM, phone calls, those kind of analytics, even to the fact of prospects engaging with the robot or the AI. We call ours a REMI because of REMM Group. So I named it REMI and told them, when REMI talks, everyone knows who REMI is. So we would just check REMI's performance on that end. But most importantly, I think we really focused on our team. Sometimes they're the last reason for rolling out software. And I feel like they're the ones who use it all the time. So let's get their feedback. So essentially, I asked all of our teammates who use REMI, which REMI do you like most? How does REMI respond to your residents? How do they talk to your prospects? And then from there, gauging from their feedback, which one they like better. And then, of course, I would say one of the other metrics I would highly recommend everyone look at is the onboarding and customer service part. This technology changes every day. We rolled it out months ago, and it's still not perfect, but it's very simple. Bad data is bad robot. And I don't think anyone in property management can guarantee that every data point in their system is accurate. I'm sure some of us there have handicap signs in the marketing GL. I'm pretty sure so. So at the end of the day, unless you clean up your entire data set, you're going to run into those issues. And these robots right now for AI, they don't hallucinate. Their LLM is pretty much secured based on what the information you have in your system, whether it's your CRM, your Yardi, your Ring Cafe, or whatever PMS you use. So if you don't have your data set correct, bad data, bad robot.
Yeah, I think that's a really very important point for people to understand is the AI is only as good as the data, right? And so it takes a lot of work and data hygiene in order to really make sure an AI can be effective. And honestly, the site teams being effective too, I think it goes hand in hand, right? Otherwise, you have people saying misinformation or it's entrenched within certain individuals, which is not the way you want to run a scalable organization. Ian, for you, I'm curious, what was the process like?
Yeah, I would say, where we've had the successes, I was gauging it with a business intelligence tool to really see if it was a mission accomplished. And that the mission was to get time back. So when I talked about things like the renewal process and delinquency pursuit and things of that sort, it was to see if AI really was taking out some of that manual work. You could say that was a product of centralization. I don't know that was necessarily our goal, because what I do think is funny, 5-6 years ago, all we could talk about was centralization, right? And then somewhere along the way, centralization became an amalgamated conversation with AI. And I think that's because one helped fuel the other, right? And so, for us, just the numbers didn't lie. We saw the time back that was coming to our teams in terms of, look at just the renewal process alone. I'll use industry standards, but let's say 50 to 60% of your property renews, right? And it's a 250 unit asset. So if we're talking about 125 to 140 renewals, well, we saw upwards of 60 to 70% of successful renewals. We kind of took the people out of it. And that scares me to say that. I say that with a pause because I think we still need to be a customer service business. The people were reinserted at the end, but if it was kind of terms accepted and there were no questions, AI handled everything until kind of call it point of sale, until we were ready to finalize. And then our teams were picking up the phone and saying, hey, just want to confirm we're so happy you're staying. And so we did have a process at the end of that to attach a human and make it not so cold. But the manager, the assistant manager having to hunt down someone to discuss that renewal, we gained a lot of efficiency there. And similarly on delinquency.
Yeah, and I kind of want to touch on that because I think this has been one of the long running debates in the industry is like, do you really lack the customer service or the personalization when you take the human out of the equation, right? Because I think what we've learned is AI can be hyper personalized, right? AI can be hyper responsive. And so I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that idea of taking the human out of the equation and what you really lose there and how AI and human can actually be very effective, because that's just a really long running debate that everyone's having right now.
Yeah, I can chime in there. So the way that I see this and how I show up my teams is the benefit of AI really is we can automate the process to elevate the human element. There's a lot of day-to-day tasks, a lot of processes, a lot of checklists, a lot of just kind of meaningless but important admin work. And that's not really where the on-site shine. I mean, we hire good, amazing people to be on site to cultivate experiences, to create exceptional customer experience, and really to have a hospitality focus. Because they're often spread so thin, really trying to keep the lights on and manage things in the back end, I think those surface level but important in-person relationships can take a hit, unfortunately. That's the benefit to people on site is that AI isn't taking away their jobs. It's allowing the processes to be automated so they can focus on the human-to-human connection, which how that helps the whole flywheel is by doing that, you're increasing reputation, you're increasing retention and renewals. You're able to actually increase the LTV of a resident long-term, which means you're not having to turn units, you're reducing vacancy loss, you're actually getting more value. There's just so many benefits that compound when you actually have a nurturing ecosystem on site. And if you have no way to automate the processes behind the scenes and allow them to do that, then you're kind of just stuck, spread out, doing everything a little bit and not as good as it could be.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to the customer service side and the sales side. I think when it comes to AI, obviously the ability to sell, I don't think that AI is at that level yet. I think the ability to sell is someone who has the creativity and innovation during the middle of a conversation to kind of understand the customer's needs and wants and desires, and then linking that up with the value proposition that they can offer. That's something that, in my opinion, requires way higher level than any AGI out there can do today. So when it comes to sales, I would say probably not. When it comes to your typical, like, for example, if I were to hit up Amazon right now, there's no one talking to me there, but I'm going to get my refund from that chatbot as fast as I can. I mean, that's just really simple, right? I mean, at the end of the day, you call someone because you have a problem, whether it's AI or not, within like 5 minutes of that conversation, if you're not getting what you want, you're going to say, let me talk to a manager, right? So that's how I see AI. AI is the front line. And then, when the robot doesn't appease the customer because there was an issue of some sort, they're going to be like, escalate me to a manager. Let me talk to a real person who can override whatever concession or refund option you can provide me to make me happy as a customer because you wronged me. I think that's where it comes down to. And then, of course, the last category, in my opinion, are just your simple reminders. The automation of folks getting messages from the apartment community for things like, hey, pay your rent on time. Hey, we have a resident event. Hey, parking on the east side of the building is going to be shut down. Please don't go there. Park here. I would love to get that kind of notification because, you don't want your manager sending an e-blast at 12 o'clock at night before they go to sleep because they forgot to notify all the residents that there's going to be wet paint at the gate, So at the end of the day, I think there's use case scenarios where AI can thrive and where human talent is still a necessity and honestly cannot be replaced. I mean, unless you want to change everything to order takers. But in my opinion, my salesperson will get way more bang for the buck on the rent than the order taker.
I'm also curious, we've talked about the impact to both current residents and on the sales side. Wendell, you've kind of said that, you think that humans are still much more effective at selling, right? And I think there's definitely a case for that. I'm curious for everyone here, why did you end up getting interested in having AI in operations? Why were we interested in piloting AI and rolling out AI? And was the experience different than you expected? And this is going to be a long one, but what was actually the most helpful function, right? Was it the sales side on leasing, or was it actually, as Ian's talking about, maybe time saving on delinquency follow-up, on renewals? What is the most impactful, workflow or work stream of AI in the business today? And was that different than what you thought it would be? I think that's the simplest way to put this.
In my opinion, I think one of the biggest things, to Ian's point about time saving, really, it's not just time saving, but just tedious work. Our on-site teams go through a lot of tedious work. If you're hitting close to about 70, 100 leads a day, you're calling all those folks back, you're double checking with them, you're following up, your regional's telling you, have you followed up with your leads? At the end of the day, it would be nice to have a system in place that follows up on your leads. And when they do call back or they're interested, all of a sudden you create that cold lead into a hot lead and you focus on all the hot leads. Call centers have operated like that for decades, right? You got the initial line of attack, and then you got your closers who are sitting in the back room waiting for the hot leads to come through. And I think in property management, that was hard to do. I mean, I can't hire 15 people at a property, but now I can have Remy over there taking care of the bulk of the tedious work and leaving my leasing agent and associate with the energy and the smile and the bubbliness to focus on those hot leads, which then increases your conversion factor. And I think at the end of the day, who can keep up the stamina to act the same way? And I've asked my team this: the call you make at 9 a.m. in the morning is the same energy you make at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after you've done 100. I mean, it'd be nice if I can only focus on the 15 hot leads each day, put more energy into that and really close them. So, it's a tough job to be a leasing person at an apartment community. You're trying to sell a very large purchase for an item with a commitment. It's not like you're trying to sell something on Amazon here. Well, who knows? Maybe one day Amazon will sell apartments. I don't know. But that's the case here. And it requires, I think, in our sense, leasing agents have worked a lot of long hours. And sometimes if they're not focused on the hot leads, they'll miss out on those opportunities, Yeah,
I think state of AI as it relates to inbound leasing traffic, I don't want to speak for all my counterparts, but I've had this conversation. I actually spoke on a panel about it a few months ago. And the general consensus was almost everyone that I know, their companies are using it as kind of a pre-qualification or a vetting tool to weed out great traffic from not so great traffic. And I think additionally, as they call it, an after hours or before hours tool as well. And those are all extremely important. Do I think we will get to a point where, between AI and the progressive ability to answer all those questions, and then services like Tour 24 that'll allow people to tour at their own pace? Yeah, I think there's a place for that. I'll age myself here, guys. So I've got two kids, one engaged, one married, both in their mid to late 20s, right? And when they were growing up, I would say, hey, call to order a pizza. And they would look at me like I had two heads, like, I don't want to talk to anyone. Don't they have an app? Like, and we lived in Chicago. I'm like, no, we get good pizza. They don't have an app, right? Like, crappy pizza has an app. But the reality was my sales cycle compared to someone today in their 20s or their late teens is very different. And the expectation is very different. There's a cohort out there that would be thrilled by the prospect of never having to talk to anyone and getting it done. That's not me. And so I think today what we find ourselves as operators having to balance is we cater to all those different desires in terms of the sales process, right? So to the degree that we could be as advanced as possible and take people out of it for those who want that. And look, when we're looking at a P&L, we go, well, that's pretty great too. But I don't think we're there or we're there in the next decade to where we're a personless business. I don't foresee that. I still think that we gravitate more towards the hotel and hospitality side than we do the Amazon side.
Yeah, I agree entirely with that. A couple of things, actually, I agree with both of you guys. I think those were all great points. There's a couple of use cases. And when I first was introduced to AI, obviously the most impactful thing I realized is that the speed from idea to execution almost became instantaneous. Now, this has pros and cons, obviously, but being able to work out ideas very rapidly, get feedback, poke holes in your own logic, help you think through things, strategize, do research, like that's not been accessible on that level ever. And to have that at your fingertips as a strategic thinker, as a creative thinker, as a team leader, is invaluable if used correctly. And to you guys' points, I think on site, one of the main benefits has been qualifying leads, after hours, before hours, even maintenance requests, whatever it is. When they get to people on site, they're ready for the next step. That's where the sales, the in-person thing comes into play. And I will say another big benefit that I've noticed, at least early on, was the ability to now scale revenue without scaling spend in terms of overhead, in terms of headcount. As you guys mentioned, like you could have a ton of people working a call center, answering calls, working leads. But as the business grows, as you acquire more properties, you'll have to increase headcount to deal with that additional traffic flow. If we can find ways to optimize processes right now, then we can scale our revenue by scaling growth without scaling our expenses in parallel, which actually allows the business to grow year over year versus, the margins basically equating to the same outcome. So that's not to say anybody wants to get rid of their current staff or lay anybody off. And I think that's a distinction, at least for our company, is we want to enable people to learn these skills, to own their processes and use the skills to actually enrich in their own skill set and their own roles. We'd rather have fewer, more effective people long-term than a, recurring, wheel of people that come in and that leave. It's very difficult to train. There's a huge cost to it. We're not looking to replace anybody's jobs with AI. It's like, okay, what are we doing? How can we do it better? And as we go towards our next goals in terms of company growth, how can we scale everything we're doing without scaling the expense behind it as well?
Yeah, I really agree with that one. Especially, it's funny because we try to roll out AI and there's companies out there who haven't done it so yet. But I just have this prediction that even if a company doesn't roll out AI in time, your employees are going to figure it out. Like, it's not hard to go watch a YouTube video and understand how to build out your own OpenClaw on a mini Mac today. And honestly, like, if I was working in leasing and you're telling me I got to follow up with 200 people every day, I'll tell you, yeah, did it.
Yeah. To that point, one thing to add, that brings up a good concern, right? If you're not providing the right systems, tools, and frameworks to protect proprietary information, then they're going to go out and put all the sensitive data into these language models. And they have good hearts and good intentions, but do you want that information being out there? So it's actually on the PMCs, the leaders in these industries, to provide those resources. So it's at least within safe confines to have trainings to understand the bad things that can happen if data is not protected. And it also liberates them and encourages them to actually explore the tech as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the other thing that we need to think about when we talk about, the big scare of centralization and how that was going to remove jobs and whatnot, when I look at the impact that AI can have, and I'm switching back over to that facility side, looking at the overall, NOI of a property. Facilities for the last decade, that's only getting worse, has been some of the hardest jobs to fill. If you look at the cost escalation of our maintenance teams, that hourly wage has gone up faster than any other wage on property. And it's a perishable skill set. Less people are going into the trades. And so you have this grizzled group of maintenance vets who know their value. And so for me, it's less about, can we replace headcount? And it's more about making it as easy to hire and retain on that side of the house, as well as head off at the pass some of the nonsense, right? What is the biggest complaint of maintenance guys, regardless of what you pay them, or maintenance people, I should say? It's on call. They hate on call. And by the way, I'd hate it too. I get it. Right. So, at a company that I was with prior, we had started to roll out, and it was working well, a very forward thinking module that attached to our property management software that had an AI component that at least did a talk through and kind of a guided self-diagnosis. And I say diagnosis, not fixed. Sometimes it was self-fixed too, right? We all use the cliche red button on the underside of the garbage disposal. And yes, this could help you do that. But the other thing that it could help you do, it would put you with permission. You had to acknowledge and say, yes, I'm willing to do that. It would, through your phone, you would then connect face to face through the app so that we could make sure the conversation was what it was supposed to be and everything was on the up and up. But they could diagnose prior to coming out to a work order, whether it was after hours or within work hours. But if it was perceived to be an emergency, we could tell them where the water shutoff was to at least stop and mitigate damage. Or we could say, oh, okay, we do know the problem. Can you face inside the toilet tank and show me this, this, and this? Great. I know what parts to bring. So that 1 hour call out was truly 1 hour. It wasn't 2.5 hours because he had to go out, look. Okay, now I got to go back to the shop. Now I got to find the parts. You could cut some of that off and come with kind of parts in hand because, plug-in apps as well as AI doing the upfront on that to vet it to see if it even needed to get that far. And I'm excited because I think we're tipped the iceberg on that front. I think we concentrate so much on the leasing because of our marketing spend and the analysis that goes into the cost per lease that we forget how much maintaining these apartments and paying that side of the house costs. And so I think that's kind of the lightly tapped. I don't want to say untapped, but it hasn't gotten the attention yet. I think that's going to be the next frontier in terms of where we push.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one, Ian. I mean, to be honest with you, it's funny because we rolled out some maintenance apps on our portfolio. I mean, we're in California, so we got some crazy laws, you know. I mean, you gotta take a picture of everything before you charge someone a deposit. If you can charge them a deposit, if you can collect a deposit, I can go on and on with every AB law that goes out there. But essentially, your point is well taken, because at the end of the day, it is hard to find good maintenance techs and supervisors out there. You know, I make the joke about, you know, like if you take a look at some of your telephone companies out there, you know, back in the day, I remember when I used to work for companies like Pac Bell, you know, a guy would show up with a tool belt, pliers, some wire cutters. Now they show up with an iPad. Like they're not going to cut a wire. These guys never even crawled down the space of a basement, to be honest with you. So, you know, I'm just saying, like, they're not going to do that. And, you know, if you think about it, with almost every other service out there, customers have to realize, I mean, PMs as well as customers and renters, we're in a world now where DIY, you know, is really essential. I mean, have you ever had an issue with your internet at home with Spectrum or AT&T or Verizon? You know, it's like they literally, you call them and the AI goes through a whole list of things you got to do. Unplug it, plug it. You know, push the button in the back, like the red button on the disposal, right? You have a paper clip, you're going to need a paper clip, you know, and then it's like you're self-fixing it. By the time you've done it, I guarantee you, I want to say at least half of America knows how to troubleshoot a modem, right? Because they got to watch their Netflix series. It's almost, you know, they got to find it, you know, they got to connect the internet, they got to work from home. So my point to Ian's is that, yeah, I think that we're going to start seeing AI play a huge role in preventing fires by finding smoke, everything from leaks to, you know, just things happening. Like, and then it would be amazing if you were a person living in an apartment community and the first thing you did, you know, I have an emergency. It's 2:00 in the morning. Let me text, you know, the maintenance person, Remy, you know, and Remy goes, oh, have you turned off the water? And all of a sudden, Remy shows a picture of where it is. Like, go outside, walk to the left, 13 steps, take that knob, turn it, you know? And it's like, boom, we just saved ourselves how much in restoration costs, right? Instead of waiting for the maintenance person to show up in a flood and be like, you haven't even turned it off?
No, you're right. And there's so much more that can be done, you know, especially the last few months with like multimodal models, like with like, you know, both obviously audio, video, screen sharing. You can share that all with an AI, and an AI can, you know, talk to you and self-diagnose it, right? So I think you're completely right. I mean, Ian, also like in terms of even just like triaging, right? There's so much that can be done in sort of self-triaging, even if the, you know, resident can't fix it themselves, right? Can't, you know, reset the modem, so to speak, but at least, you know, the service tech knows exactly what they're getting into, what tools exactly to bring, and saving, you know, countless hours in the process. So totally, I love this. And it sounds like you guys seem to collectively think this is the next frontier. Cody, any thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's all what we're working towards as well. And is understanding of the triage, the escalation hierarchy, you know, how much of that is like an actual person behind a contact center kind of phone setup, or if we use AI. But with AI voice and with all this, I mean, I think there's a combination of all that can work, but I think to kind of wrap up where this could go in the future with maintenance and everything else, it's meeting people where they're at and helping them get what they need quickly and seamlessly. It's all about seamless experience. Now, that could be in person when appropriate. That can be using AI, but people expect to have what they want when they want it and how they want it. So, I mean, if there's a maintenance issue and it's 2 a.m., I don't know if they even care if they have to go quickly do it themselves or if they have to call somebody. They want that solved quickly so they can go back to bed. And whatever that path looks like, some people are more, you know, on the DIY side and definitely would take that into consideration. But I think people just want to live their lives and to have tools and technology allow them to do so somewhat seamlessly. So,
I mean, to take it one step further, Kendrick, I mean, now thinking about it, I would love it if someone out there would create something where your residents become your asset integrity kind of like watchers. I mean, I would love, like, if I was a resident and someone sent me a text and said, hey, can you take a picture of the following areas, like a scavenger hunt, and I'll give you a nice little resident, you know, incentive. and all those pictures get captured and then they put into a folder for your maintenance team to review, and AI looks at it and says, hey, there's some issues here. I mean, it's almost like how AI looks at a KPI. Now it's going to look at photos and determine when things are out of place, and honestly notify your property, your asset manager, your asset integrity, and your service team. And now they know, instead of waiting for it to get worse and worse and worse, until the point where now it becomes a big CapEx project.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
like kind of crowdsourcing crowdsourcing image data that like gets fed through an AI and then like a flag to the maintenance tech or the property. That's unique. I really like that.
Sorry, not to interrupt. Sorry, but that's a perfect synergy with like resident-based kind of leasing in a sense, where you wouldn't even have to have people on site. You could have resident ambassadors that potentially help lease, that could help guided tours, whatever it might be. There might be particular properties where everything's kind of run by the residents, and there's an incentive structure and obviously safety protocols in place. But in certain places that could work, and it might be actually fruitful and have maybe even create more sense of community as well. I mean, I could see that happening in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Cody, there's a company that did that. Opinion just bought them. Was it Red Grotto?
Yeah. So that's like on like the, I kind of think of it like a live review, but it's like a chap on the website, person behind it. But a step further would be like the person's actually going to walk you around the units, tell you about the property, answer your questions.
Almost like a student housing model, right?
Yeah, the student housing.
Yeah. Let's get a bunch of RAs
model there.
Let's get RAs.
Just a bunch of RAs who get extra coupons.
Get coupons. dining coupons.
I'm still telling you, Matt. One day, man, we're gonna have, instead of all this stuff with resident events, man, we should just do the old school Dave and Buster's prize area. Replace replace all those extra rooms you have and just turn it into a prize place, and people get tickets through their phone.
Gamifying, right?
Gamify the entire.
Gamify the industry. Gotta gamify the industry.
Like, I would love to walk into a leasing office and go, "Hey, I found that leak for you. Can I, can I get the
Prigers?
Yeah, let me get the teddy bear." Gamify it with AI. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're at time, everyone. Thank you guys so much. This has been a really, really fun conversation. I think we covered a lot and also uncovered some new ideas for us to germinate on. So thank you all for joining. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, see you guys.